One. There we go. Well, good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. PL Stewart here, back on Six Elementals. A very special, very special Saturday near the end of March. I have two amazing authors joining me today. The first one, wow. What can I say about this
Oh my gosh.
book? Oh, he dropped off. He's back though. He's back.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Sorry. Go for it.
His presence is so powerful that just the universe blinked out for a second. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not read Price of Power, what are you doing? This is the bomb. This was pretty well my most anticipated indie science fiction fantasy book. I knew I was going to read it this year. I was like, yeah, this is my most anticipated book of the year. It did not disappoint. It was fabulous. And today I have the honor and the pleasure of interviewing the incredible author, grimdark indie star, Michel. What's up, bro?
Hello. It's so weird to hear people say things like that about you. I literally don't know how to respond, but I am honored to be here. I'm really mainly happy. Like, it's so weird to be an author and be like, really the one thing that always matters is like one person saying they really liked your book. And that's what I'm really excited about. I'm like, oh, PL liked my book. This is so cool. Like that's just the best part of any author's day, I think. So I'm just stoked you like it. Now I'm like, oh, what'd you like about it? I don't know.
Dude, I more than like that. I absolutely loved it. I'm so grateful I had the privilege of meeting you in Seattle and getting a signed copy for you. Thank you so much. This just blew me away. We had talked a bit before, and you told me a bit about your book, and as soon as you said, like, yeah, from what I heard about your book, PL, and your main character, you're gonna love this because of my main character, and you were spot on. You were spot on. But it's much more than that. It's much more than that. Well, I absolutely adore this book, and like I said, we're gonna get into that. But I'll quickly put up. We have a visitor. It is Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Morning, hey, what's up, bro? Gosh. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming out.
All right, one of my favorite. I'm gonna call him a con man. One of my favorite con men. No, we can't do that. That can't be like a term that sticks, because there's ladies too. But I see Ganesh, and I've seen him at a bunch of cons now, and I love seeing Ganesh. So, what's up, Ganesh?
Ganesh is absolutely an amazing human being. We love you. Thanks for coming out, my friend. Great to see you. Also had the honor of meeting him as well in Seattle. It was great. He's just such a wonderful person. Knows a heck of a lot about books as well. So, yep. Ganesh is fabulous. So listen, we have to get into this book later, but I have to ask you. So this book, the first book in your series, right? To me, blew up. That's when it came out. That's all people were talking about for a while. Is Price Power. So, did you have any idea about the groundswell of popularity that this book was going to generate? How did that all go down?
Wait, did you say you cut out for a split second? Have any of and then it went groundswell.
Sorry, did you have any idea about the groundswell of acclaim that was coming for this bad boy? That's all everyone was talking about.
Okay, so if we look, so there's really been two releases, right? There was the first one, and I would say that one surprised me when I released the book the first time. I'd actually, I remember the moment I had put the book out to beta readers. So like I do a different process with my books. I think, and please anybody else do this because I think it actually works pretty good. I write the first draft and then I don't let anyone see that typically. Then I write the second draft because then it's much better when someone sees it. Then I have probably 3 to 5 people read it. And I don't go to people who are going to I go to people for that first read. They're going to be like, this is amazing. Like, I know they're going to say it's good, right? Or like they're but they're the highest chance of saying what they like about it, right? And what that does is that really gives you it gives you the opportunity to see what's working well, what you're doing well, and allows you to expand on it, right? The best way to cut is to expand and make no more room for the things that are good, right? If you've got something that's like, man, there's no room for this anymore because I expanded all the good stuff, then you just cut the shit that doesn't work, right? So doing that, then I rewrite it because they even sometimes have some like, well, I didn't really love that. And it's like, okay, but I've already got all the positive things. Like I'm like momentum, motivation. It's hard to write a 900-page book or however many pages it is. It's like whatever keeps you going, you know? And then after the next draft, then I gave it to beta readers. And don't worry, just like my books, I'm coming back to the point. So I gave it to my beta readers, and that's I got like 20 signed up and I think 12 finished. And I haven't done anything in publishing. I don't know anybody. I've published some short stories. That's about it. Right. And people really, really, really liked it. And that stunned me. I was like, whoa, this is weird. I didn't actually think I would write a book that, I hoped. I was having a blast. It was something I always wanted to do, but like did not realize that it would have that effect. And one of the beta readers like wanted to talk to me on the phone. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I got on the phone with him. And at first I was like, did this guy even read the book? He can't answer my questions. I'm like, I start asking questions. I'm like, okay, well, what did you like about this? Or what do you think of that? Right. Trying to get information as I'm redrafting it. And he couldn't answer it. And I was like, this is a weird thing. Did he really even read it? Looking back, I realized, so then we keep talking, and he eventually, oh shit, yeah, he's read the book, and he loved it. And what it was he was like nervous to talk to me. Like, because he was like, he loved the book so much, and then he's getting to talk to the author. It took him like 5 minutes to like warm up and be like, and that experience like was really a different and interesting one, and kind of like a seminal experience at the beginning of the publishing journey, really. And then the book got a bunch of great reception, and that was wild. Second time around, honestly, for how much work I put into the launch, like it was great, but almost disappointing. Sorry to say. It was it was a 10-month launch plan that I put a year into devising. So like there was really nothing short of like pure riches that wouldn't have I'm a pretty ambitious guy, as you probably noticed from reading the book, but like I literally drove myself to the brink doing that. And then I was like, oh, but it did work. And I was kind of fighting an uphill battle because I had to literally replace the book. So like you're fighting an algorithm. So I had like 230 reviews already on that book, on book one's cover that edition. And I had to effectively like get enough momentum and thrust to supplant it. And that was challenging, really challenging.
Any regrets? Would you, on hindsight, would you do it again? Would you do that re-release again?
The re-release? Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the cover artist wasn't going to work out for books 2, 3, and beyond. I mean, it might have worked out for book 2, but they had hesitation about it. And that means they definitely probably wouldn't have got it for 3, 4, and 5, the right cover. So I'm really, really happy. Shout out to Patrick Leo for the suggestion. Love that guy. And also shout out to Christopher Cant, the one who made this cover. It's actually interesting. The black as the, first books, what color are first books usually? They're like red or blue, right? Or orange or something. And we had orange, and I was like, it's a little too Lycanius. And so last second decision to go, let's go black. And I was like, yes, I was really excited about it. At least I think it looks fantastic, but yeah, definitely would redo it. I mean, it's, I think we're at, I don't know how many reviews, 400 or something in almost a year. Actually, we're almost on my 1-year anniversary of the re-release.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I again, from the outside looking in, obviously you went through a lot. I respect that so much that, but I mean, clearly the book's successful. So all that pain, and you know about the pain train because that's what you bring in these books. It worked. So quickly, I'm just going to shout out. Gabrielle said, "I was told to come on the Die Trader, but I'm not sure why."
Well, I put it in my Discord chat. I was like, hey, we're doing this right now. If anyone wants to come by, I was like, swing by and say, I was like, hello? Nah. I was like, swing by and say, die, trader. I thought
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for coming out, Gabrielle, and supporting Michael. So that is amazing. You know what? Speaking of your process and beta readers, et cetera, and writing support groups. Funny, I just finished reading another incredible book. Well, let's finish it. Full disclosure. So, as I said, got this from Michael, Book Exchange, I believe, in Seattle. Got an ARC, Exchange for Novels review, from someone who mentions you as a big support system, and along with a group of writers, including Zach Argo, et cetera. ML Spencer, another brilliant author. She mentioned you in that arc as being someone who supported her. So how important is the group? And in that group, it was like a who's who of indie authors that she mentioned, you, Zach, etc. Like, how important is it beyond betas and alphas, and like, how important is it to have other indie authors who get it, right? And they've been to the mountain and back, like in your corner.
Okay, I've got chills because I feel very passionately about a lot of things, but this is one of them. Okay, so as far as like, I'm gonna separate the writing and the publishing part, right, or just the being of author. Okay, because for the writing part, I was a part of like a very high level like critique group for like 3 years, just writing short stories, literally every week without fail for 3 years, every Tuesday. Took like 1 or 2 weeks off a year. And that group is like prolific. Like when I met George R.R. Martin, right? He knew, like, I was like, oh yeah, my friend said to say this to you. And he goes, oh yeah, Jerry Olteen. And then I was like, oh yeah, I was part of the Wordos. And he goes, oh, that's in the Valley in Oregon, right? And I was like, yes. And I was like, it was started by Damon Knight. And he was like sitting like this. He's like, Kate Wilhelm. I was like, damn, dude, you know more about my writing group than I do. I fucking forgot all that shit. He's got a good memory still, apparently. But that writing group was super important in terms of like being able to write at the sentence level, right? That's really what you're working on with short stories, I think, at least back then. So that was huge. It was like a master's degree in writing. It felt like doing that. And at that table, there were like World Fantasy Award winners, Hugo Award winner, or Nebula Award winners, like the whole gamut. It was an incredible table of sci-fi writers. But then as far as like this group with ML and, I don't even know what groups I'm even a part of anymore. I'm probably a part of like 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, like 6. I don't do any writing in those groups. I barely do any critique. There is a critique group. I would love to be able to do it. I don't have any time. But what you said is exactly right. People who get it. I complain about this to my wife all the time. It's like, people who write a book, rare. People who write a book and publish it, even more rare, right? People who write a book and publish it and get a modicum of success, right? Like, I know that you're saying I'm successful and stuff. In my mind, I'm not successful till I'm achieve crazy ambitions and stuff. But I know most authors would like kill to like switch spots with me in terms of like reviews and stuff. I'm totally understanding of that. But it's like, to be able to be at any level of success, even if it was less than me, is a very tiny part of the population. And what we go through as authors and just people in this business is just so, man, this is like so much of your time and energy and love for all these cool things that you've put your own spin on or created yourself that are unique and interesting, like your whole creative psyche funneled into this single little tome. And then what do you do with it, right? And like that first part, who gets that? Creatives probably get it to some degree, but it's like not something most people do. And then that like part of you kind of gets put through this meat grinder of publishing that is so challenging. It's so challenging. And having that group to be able to be like, I just like 5 minutes before this, I popped in these 2 pictures for my special edition Kickstarter coming out in the next 6 weeks or so, 2 months. And it was like 2 almost identical pictures, but it's like one's lighter, one's darker. And I'm like, hey, older people say the brighter one is better probably, but for a Kickstarter, how print works, what actually will play better, in terms of print quality. Because sometimes I've heard from like Jeff Brown that darker gets even darker. I'm like, having people to talk to you about this you're very isolated as an author. And so having people as a community who understand your experience is so, so very important. So I'd say to any new authors, like go to conventions, go find people, find other authors. Because honestly, for me, writing, getting fans telling me things, that's fucking great. Whatever. The best part about being an author is talking to other authors, because you're really being heard and seen. And that is not something, it's almost like the success is my desire for success is motivated to be able to be seen and talk to people who get me, right? There may be some like subconscious, like deeper desire for connection there. I don't know. I'm not getting real weird.
No, not at all. I feel you. So well said. I totally agree. I feel exactly the same. That's why I do stuff like this, right? It's about the connection. It's giving back too, but it's also primarily the connection, right? But speaking of that, so you decide to write this epic fantasy series, and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's 5 books. Is it 5 books?
Nailed it. 5 books.
So you're planning. I thought at first it was 4, and then I was reading up on you, and I realized, oh no, there's going to be a 5th book. So, how does this happen? Your background. How does this start?
Well, it started when I was mowing a lawn for my mom's friend in the 7th grade, and I was like mowing, and you don't have any. I'm not listening to anything. I'm just literally thinking any thought to keep me from diving into the mundanity of what I was doing and dying a little bit. And I was like, catastrophe nights, which isn't even how you say that word. That was the thought I had. I was like, that sounds so cool. And I was just essentially thinking of like, Warhammer's Chaos Knights, like how big and armored they are. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to write a fantasy book. And then I just started thinking about that, pulling from like the Rift War saga and like other things that I'd experienced in the fantasy world. I'd always, with my dad and brothers, like loved fantasy and cool shit like that. Like me and my brother would record on VHS tapes every X-Men episode on Saturday morning. Such a good show. God, so good. And then we would like, my dad would listen to these audiobooks of like David Eddings on like long trips to Canada, by the way. We'd go to Canada. He'd have his audiobooks.
Canada.
I honestly, all my success is dedicated to Canada, So like, just like I was pretty inundated with it. I started playing Warhammer Fantasy when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I remember sitting in this like little cabin with not a cabin, but it was like a cabin like room. But we were at this like family retreat thing, and it was during the Barcelona Olympics, I remember. And my brother had picked up at some shop this like White Dwarf magazine, and it had Warhammer stuff in it. And he was like, Michael, look at this. And it was like Skaven. So it was like rats with shields and swords. And he's like, if we get $10, we can you buy that one. I'll buy this one. And I'm like, in. I'm so in. Well, I was like, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen. And they had them all like pictures of them all posed up in battles. And I was like, yes. They are not $10.
No,
not at all. And nevertheless, I started playing Warhammer and getting into it. And it was great times, man. Just like fun times with my brothers doing geeky shit, playing Magic, playing Warhammer. watching X-Men. You know, we'd read the same books. Like we all read the Rift War saga. All read like David Eddings. They read Wheel of Time. I didn't, because they were like, that's a slog. And I was like, I'm not interested. I think they all quit after Twilight's Crossroads. I remember my dad left the book on our kitchen counter with a note to my brothers. And it was like, I finished this. Not one battle, not one fight, 1,000 pages, nothing happens. Good luck. And I don't think any of them read it either. That's what it is. That's what happened.
That is awesome. Okay, so and great start there. So then you're into Warhammer, you're into reading fantasy like David Eddings and the slog part of Wheel of Time, all that. Then in terms of like life, career, was there anything that led towards the writing? Was there anything that, whether it's theater or music, or what happened with that?
That's a good question. So I would say at 19, my brother gave me Game of Thrones, and at about page 400 during the hands tourney, I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know, looking back at it, I think what really just blew my mind up about Game of Thrones was, and I got all my friends to read, you know, and so we'd be like we worked at Autzen Stadium, and we would just drive around in golf carts and do nothing. And we just talk about Game of Thrones constantly, you know? And huge connection point for my friends at the time. And again, there's the connection. And I think what it was about Game of Thrones is that, like, I was, by the way, obsessed. It's that it was like somebody had finally written a fantasy book for me. Like it just was, it wasn't the classic, oh, this group of characters and they have plot armor and they, you know, do this thing. And I like that a little bit, you know, but Game of Thrones really felt real. It was, oh, I'm not just reading a fantasy book anymore. I'm reading a dramatized, like a real, like an adult movie, but it's a fantasy book.
Yeah.
And I had always, when I was like really young, I wanted to be a villain in movies. And so I've always loved, like, you know, villains and side characters the most. And so when I read Game of Thrones, given that the characters are all so gray, the villains felt really real. And I was like, this is awesome. You know, I just was never like a good guy beats bad guy kind of a guy when I was a kid, even. So that was huge. That was pivotal in terms of me being like, oh my God, like inspired to take what I'd already like written or gathered, not even written. I wasn't really writing much. I was just like writing notes, you know how it goes, as a kid. And really just, I started taking creative writing classes and stuff, and college, and getting really excited about writing. Game of Thrones really put the spirit of writing in me. Other things that definitely helped, getting my certification in coaching. I'm a professional development coach. When I did that, it felt like I found the missing piece of myself, right? So writing is an old man's game, old woman's game, whatever you want to call it. Not typically something that someone in their 20s, there are exceptions, but people who are like 22 don't just write a bestseller usually. And my theory about that is that in order to write a book, you are trying to thin the boundary between your creative vision and what goes into the page. The thinner that boundary, the more someone who reads it will get it. Okay. It's hard to have a thinned boundary if you aren't like authentically knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And so I tell, you know, my number one writing advice for writing is like know who you are, because then that the like who you're not won't come into the writing process very much. Like you'll just be purely doing you, and it's like smoother flow, better. The creative vision is transferred better, more easily. And so when I got my coaching certification is when I was like, oh, I'm going to write this book, and I wrote a book over the summer, and there's good parts to it, but it's not a book that I've continued with. It was just like a tester almost. I might go back and write it at some point. I mean, it's written, but the whole middle was garbage because I forced it. But like that piece, that like kind of the spiritual underpinning and like the more metaphysical stuff that's where I got all of that. Like it was from my coaching journey. And it also gave me the tools to be able to write an entire book. Those would be the main ones. I did a little acting at one point, and that helped with dialogue and dialogue blocking and like seeing scenes play out. Like being able to like look, here's my screen, I see my face, and then being able to see the 360 of everything around it or why they're doing a thing. So it helped a little bit in that way. But I would say the other stuff, Game of Thrones, the spirit of writing, and then my coaching journey, like the tools internally needed to be able to do it well.
That was wow. That was exceptionally well said. And I want to pull on that thread a bit. I think that's the best. I've heard a lot of great writing advice. I think that's some of the best I've heard from you, from you about what you said about knowing yourself and why people who perhaps are a bit younger don't write, best-selling books. I think that's fabulous. I would only add to that, and this is my opinion, is that I think it's also about, in terms of life experience, knowing other people. Like I think when you're, depending on what you've done, I mean, for example, you served the military and you've seen combat, like you do that at 17, 18, 19, 20. That's a different kind of life experience that perhaps, okay, you know what? I have some foundational things that's just an example, right? If you've been a nurse at an early age in law enforcement, whether you've done, you've worked conservation, whether you've worked, anything doing any service-oriented industry, being a waiter or waitress or anything you do that involves you having knowledge of people and really working with people, I think that's what you need. Knowing people, knowing how people react, knowing how they're all very different, knowing people with different backgrounds and cultures. And I think that if you traveled a lot when you're younger, I think that really, can be a game changer. And I think, I think knowing yourself, I think that component, and that's a component I hadn't considered as much, but I think it's so important that you said, so thank you for that. But yeah, I also think perhaps the life experience of knowing other people. And I think that's something that you don't typically accumulate until you're just a bit older. So
yeah. And I would say it takes that time. So like going other places creates kind of the like friction necessary to kind of go, wait, I guess it's not like this, or it is like this. And it like creates that friction to know yourself. And then being with other people, like meeting a lot of people and like engaging with them. Again, it's that friction of like, oh, wait, I had this experience with this person, but this one with this person. And it's like, what does I feel like this is the right one, right? And so like getting experiences, like that's a huge part of it too. I won't lie, like being a counselor also before I was a coach and sitting with people, as you probably pick up from the writing, and how like people think about themselves or whatever. And there's times where I punch it up for the story, but I try to be authentic to the like psychological aspects of every character and what it would, do to them. I always think it's funny when you read like a more noble bright type or like just like a regular old high fantasy. Yeah. And they're like, the main character, I think this happened once in like Mistborn with like Vin. She was like, they'll do something where it's like, no, this is not the noble thing to do. We can't do that. And then they'll be like 10 bad guys, butcher the shit out of them. And then they're like, all right, what's next? And you're like, dang, dude, you just murdered like 10 people brutally. Like, you're not going to have a reaction? Or like, there's not some long lasting psychological component to what you've just done. Like, it's sociopathic.
Yeah. And you know what? That perhaps is what has always drawn me to the darker fantasy. I'm not sure if you're the same. Of course, you write brilliant grimdark, in my opinion. You qualify, of course, as the author, how you see fit. But for me, this definitely slots into brilliant grimdark. I do want to lash back onto that thread though, where a lot of your inspiration, George R. R. Martin, Game of Thrones. You met him. I think one of the things you do so well in this book, and I hear it only blows up in future books where there's even more POVs, is that when a writer is skillful when they can give you 2, 3, 4 or more POVs and they do not sound the same. They don't bleed into each other. It's not just like your characters, your 4 main characters, all felt so different, so unique, so special with their own motivations and thought processes, and they didn't feel like just. And I think, and that takes a lot of skill. That's a skill that George R. R. Martin has, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he can write young women so well.
Yeah. Now, mind you, he may have an issue tying all those movies together at the end and resolving all their plot threads, but that's another story. But I have confidence that you're going to. But these POVs just had me. I was just like, wow, this is incredible stuff. Spectacular, we did it. And the POVs are so, like, you have, and without spoiling, and I wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate if you give us some insight into these characters. You have one character, he's basically there to commit suicide. He's based on a suicidal mission. But if he doesn't die, he believes he's going to gain immense power. And then you have this young princess that she's learning the ropes. She's trying to figure herself out. She's torn between burgeoning love and political machinations, and like there's so much on with her plot, and she's in the thick of what's really happening in terms of geopolitics, right? And then you have this senior player game, scheming, who is essentially decided that to save the world, her relative must die. Her like a young boy must die. Part of her family, her grandson. So, and then you have the main character, who I absolutely loved, who is this hero of legend who essentially abdicated, disappeared. Everything is dead. And he becomes a drug dealer because he can't cope with the atrocities that he committed, essentially the war crimes he committed. So can you tell us about these characters, how they came to be, what you think of all of them, without spoilers? Can you talk a bit about them?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a long answer. Hopefully not.
I hope so.
Well, okay. I'll start with Thefos, just because I think he's one of the if people DNF book 1, I think it's because they hit Thefos and they're like, too morose. Like, I can't. He wants to kill himself. This is really a drag. He's also like trying to. Okay, it's really hard to write a boring character who doesn't really have much of a personality in a way that's engaging. Like, I mean, it's not hard to write like that. Like, his chapters flow fairly easily, but it does make me nervous when writing him, or at least for book 1. After book 1, he's, I mean, there's things that occur, like there's things happening around him that make him much more interesting. But, I mean, he's interesting in book 1 too, but he's an interesting one. And honestly, so my subconscious is storing, like we were talking about, experiences and people. There's a lot of people who it's like, oh, it's like this guy I met at a store and my mother's, brother and my friend from high school, boom. And they make this, and so it's just this weird people math thing. But for Thefos, he has almost no inspirations from other people. And that's how you write a character like that, is you don't draw from other people. Whereas Barrowdane, for instance, he is, if I had to make him a mixture, it'd be like Prince Arutha from Rift War Saga the Hound from Game of Thrones, myself, and Will Money from Unforgiven, right? So in book 1 specifically, there's kind of a Western vibe in that whole storyline. And I want to have that kind of Western vibe. Like there's a scene in the beginning of book 3 that has kind of I like that. I love Westerns. I actually write Westerns, but I don't do much with them. But like so fun, have a great time with that voice and that feel. So that's Barrowdane, like he's pulling on that. And then I'm just going each one character. Ashoa is like, I have a daughter as a teenager, so pulling from that. But then the first time I wrote her, it was like, a lot of my female betas and my wife were like, she might be too annoying. So I had to go back and I'm like, okay, I got to make her, the thing about teenagers and writing teenagers is they can't, adults can see really clearly their flaws and their strengths. So in a teenager, flaws and strengths are very apparent. They're way more clear because of the contrast, usually of the flaws. As a kid, you have to write them such that the adults see their flaws, but they don't really see their flaws, right? But as long as it's a little more extreme in the strengths and flaws, then it feels like a more natural teenager, right? My goal with her is to, as we go, the flaw, like create a believable character developments in ways that her strengths and flaws become more level, because that's what being an adult is. You kind of iron out your flaws and then you kind of iron out your strengths and you become a more balanced human being, right? And then Locastri, she's based off of one of my mentor life coaches, as is Balara Frost. Not based off of, influenced by, these two badass, incredible women who are like 70 years old. And man, I was like, these humans are incredible. They're just such strong influences for me. And so there it is. And I also wanted to represent the gamut. So by the time you're in book 3, there's 8 POV characters, main characters. So you've got like Barrowdane, classic anti-hero type guy, 30-year-old dude. Although he is, part Islander. So like there's that. So like I also wanted to represent like a lot of diversity. So part Islander, 30-year-old dude. You've got an old white guy, like 50. And then you've got like a heavyset cook who's a woman. I actually really love that character. She's pretty controversial, but like she's in book 2 and she is, most of the time in fantasy books, the cook is one of 2 things. They're either really sultry, or not sultry, but like really salty and like, rah, 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 rah. Or they're like, I'm just the cook and I'm a good old chummy person and right? They're just always these 2-dimensional characters. And I wanted to make the most complex cook that's ever been. And I also, wanted to make her different. Like she's a heavyset woman, but also a little bit of like a sexual icon for a lot of the guys around her. And so I just find her to be a really interesting character. I just wanted to make interesting characters, and so like, it's just a matter of that math of like pulling from different people you've met, things you've enjoyed. I literally at one point was like, when I was writing book 1, I was like, how can I put every single thing I've ever thought was cool into one book? And I'm like, that's the fun, is threading that in. It's like cannibals, vampires, this, that. Like I literally made a list of all the things I thought were super cool. I was like, oh, I need a sword that has a name. Oh, Lamentation. That's a sick name for a sword. Yeah. Snakes with antlers. Fuck yeah. Which I don't know of anyone that's snakes with antlers. Genetically engineered dudes who are like mutant giants. Yeah. Get that in there. So that's just a little bit on the like how those characters kind of came to be. There's another aspect that's more of like a technical writing aspect where you're taking, what I do is I pass everything through the filter of character, right? So world building is character to me. I develop that through side characters. I really love side characters, and I think they're the most important world building pieces. And I give, when I build a piece of the world, sometimes it comes first and then I make a character out of it. I go, what's the rock and the hard place for each character? I don't know if you've, okay, sorry, another tangent, because I just said the rock and the hard place. This is something I taught myself when I was writing book 1. I was watching Game of Thrones and just observing, right? And I noticed something. Every character has a rock and a hard place, right? Their rock, like, yes, this is my anchor thing I love. And the hard place is like, oh no, I hate that, right? And literally watch Game of Thrones dialogue. It is just characters going, well, this is my rock. Well, this is my rock. That's your hard place. Well, this is my hard place. Well, this is your hard place. Well, this is my hard place. That's your rock. Tyrion and Cersei. Cersei's like, well, this is world run by men, and I love family. And Tyrion's like, well, no one loves a dwarf. And she's like, well, our father thought this, that, and the other. And Tyrion's like, well, I don't love my father, but I sure love whores. And they literally just, every scene is characters rock, just the two things. And so I try to have that for every character and relate it to a piece of the world in a way that's like, this reveals this part of the world through this character's eyes in an interesting way. And that was kind of my process.
Wow. Well, it certainly worked. It was so well done. So well done. I want to quickly put up there you go. That Gabrielle says, I'm 90% through Banners of Wrath. By the way, final stretch. Love this series. So there's some kudos for you. That's book 3, Banners of Wrath. Is that correct? Book 3. And she's loving the series. And it's always a testament to how good a series is if you continue to like the books. There are series that, as good as the first book is, they fall off sometimes. Sometimes you have the dreaded so-called sophomore slump. I know a lot of writers, we struggle with what's generally thought of as imposter syndrome with, especially if like you have a really, really successful debut, to follow that up with, okay, I have to make book 2 better. Okay, but will it be? And that the pressure to do that, right? And then to top that with, if book 2 is considered better, to top that would be 3 and 4, etc. So kudos to you for having readers that love book 3, and you're going to write 5, so you're on the way.
I don't know though, man. I've been at a spiritual crossroads on this for like the last little while. And there could be reasons for this, but I'm like, what is going on? Because all like my beta readers and fans will read, they read book 2 and they're like, this is even better than book 1. But then book 2 comes out and the general population is rated lower, right? And I don't hear as much about it. I can see it in the like reviews, people are like, this is awesome. And, this, right? And then book 3 came out, and I honestly thought book 3 was just gonna like kill, right? All of my readers and fans were like, this is by far the best of the 3 so far, right? This is the best book 5 far. And I felt like that too. I was like, damn, shit's going down in this one, lots going down and like some crazy twists, and it has been, I'm like surprised. Like I'm surprised that I'm so curious. I'm just curious, I guess. Cause like on the review or ratings, it's almost at 10% 3 stars, which would be the highest of the 3 books for like Amazon ratings in terms of like how many 3 stars there are. And I'm like, how did they read book 1 and 2? And they got to 3 and they were like, no, this one's not as good. I'm like, what did I do different? It's like more cool stuff happens. And everyone, like all my like, so I don't know. And I just saw a review today from someone who like rated book 1 pretty highly. Don't know what they even rated number 2. And then book 3 was like a little lower than book 1. And I was like, I'm just surprised. I'm curious more than anything. I'm like, what happened here? Because book 3 is pretty badass.
That's funny because I think it also might depend on, and I always say this, the problem with all these different mediums and book reviewing sites is that they're so skewed versus each other. For example, Amazon owns Goodreads. But if you look on Goodreads, your book's ratings have escalated with every single book. So like, I'm going to look right now, Price Power, 4.19 average on Goodreads. Graveyard for Heroes, 4.42, and Banners of Wrath, 4.58. So,
And
I mean,
it's not
yes.
I appreciate what you're doing right now for me, but also it's the amount of numbers, the volume, because the ratings always tend to go down over time. So like I look at Banners and I'm like, holy shit, 4.5 on like 35 reviews. I was like, honestly, it took book one 100 plus reviews to get down to a 4.5, right? Yeah. And so I go, that's not good. But there is something that could be impacting that, and that is that I don't have a physical book yet, and I haven't sent out physical arcs yet. And those tend to like typically you end up with like better reviews once you're sending those out, and people are sharing about it, and there's buzz and hype, and people get excited and they read it like yes, and everybody's connecting again back to the connection piece. Yeah. But then another piece is here's an interesting thing, and I'm curious. I would be curious to like deep dive into this a little bit. The price is increased by $1 each book. Okay. So if someone reads book one for $5 and they're like, that was really good. That only cost me $5. And then someone gets to book three and they go, this was $7. That's not worth $7. And weird. I know it just seems like $2 to us, but the human brain, the psyche is like an interesting thing. I go, I wonder if I would get better ratings if the book was cheaper.
It's
sad
funny
as that sounds.
But it's funny you said that. But I think it is a very complex, my opinion. Take it for what, and of course, as a fellow author, we could talk about this all day. But yeah, I think that a first book is a weird combination of just its own thing that no other book in the series is for a lot of reasons. One of them is it doesn't matter if you're George R. Martin, J.K. Rowling, your first book will always have the most ratings, reviews, more people buy it, and stop there and not continue. Even if they absolutely adore it. That there's so many books coming out. Okay, I'm gonna get back. Yep, I absolutely love Price Power. Dust of Dreams is my favorite series of all time. I can't wait. I picked up Graveyard for Heroes. It's on my shelf. Yep, I'll get to it. And then other favorite series over there. And then you start. And then next thing you know, 3 years later, I haven't gotten back. I meant to get back to this series. So and that's it. It's really I mean, it's not a frustrating thing for an author, but it is something I think you have to cope with that in a series, whether it's a duology, a trilogy. Your first book is always going to have the most ratings, sell the most, no matter what happens. You can have your first book has 1 million ratings, guaranteed your second book will have maybe 800,000 or 700,000 or 500,000, and that's it's tough to do because you're writing a series. The whole point of the first book, which is usually not the best book of the series, is to get people to read that entirety. But yet, this one is always going to be the one. So hear me out. With that, most of your sales will be this book. Your 99-cent sales, the sales that even when Amazon adjusts the pricing and you have no control over it, or when they bundle, when Amazon or whatever your platform is, when they do their advertising, they do their bundles, and they do things that have nothing to do with your advertising or your Amazon ads or your Facebook ads, and they run it, and it's just grouped in a bunch of books. It's always the first one, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So everything is geared towards your first book basically being the bell cow, and it's tough though because we want the whole series to be. Like, for example, think about this. I think you'd probably agree that most people say that A Storm of Swords is the best book in A Song of Ice and Fire, but it's never going to have as many ratings as the Game of Thrones. It doesn't matter what it does, right? But that's the reality of writing, especially a long epic series. Whether it's the fact that the dollar advertising amount is devoted there, whether that's the author himself or the platforms doing it autonomously, whether that's just, again, people pick it up as like, oh, this is amazing, I got to continue the series, and then they don't get back to it for 5 years. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much stacked against the other the other books.
But I also feel like typically in a series, the ratings go up as they have less, like you're saying, for sure, but then they typically go up. And so I was like, I don't know what Storm of Swords is. That's probably the because you get the people who tap out in book 1 and then book 2 who are like, it's not for me, 3 stars, And I'm just surprised, like late in the series. Here's what I think could also be impacting is, the characters are all pretty separate, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think because I haven't completed a series, I don't have like people's trust yet. I don't think people trust me yet. In that book 2, still characters are not really uniting. It just kind of expands a little bit. And then book 3 stays fairly expanded. Characters are like crossing paths, start crossing paths more a bunch toward the end. But like it takes till the end of book 3 for characters to cross paths, right? And I think people are like, I don't fucking trust this guy, He's just they're like, why are the characters not crossing paths? And I'm playing a long game, right? Like book 4 and 5, I'm always trying to increase the novelty, and character interactions are novel and interesting. And so like it's all should be going like this, right? So I guess if anyone's out there and questioning where you're at in the series, like just trust me. It's going to be like one, I guess all series are like one big book, but that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of people who write like, this is the book and it's completed. If you liked that, continue to the second one. Mine's more like, if you read book 1, you have to get through book 5 to really get the picture,
Yeah.
So I feel like that could play a factor.
And I think you're right, but I also think too, and I think that's one of maybe the hardest things that authors, especially indie authors, have going against them is people trusting the process, trusting the author, trusting that the author's objectives will be realized and you, the reader, will benefit. And it may not be in book 1, but it may be book 4, or maybe book 5 or 6 or 7, depending how long your series is, or book 3 if it's a trilogy. Like that, the payoffs will be there. And part of that trust, now I'm talking about India specifically, is that this is all part of a more global issue. And we're not blaming anyone to cast aspirations for sure, because we all know what's going on with famous authors such as both our favorite authors, George R. R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss, and all these very well-known famous authors with international best-selling series that haven't finished. Mm-hmm. And now you have tons of indie authors that are finishing their series. They're certainly not as well known as these non-finished traditionally published series, but there are also tons of indie authors that for whatever reasons can't finish their series. But I think they're judged more harshly, just as unfortunately indies traditionally are. But I also think that, so when you have a series like yours where the first book, to me, again, I say, from the outside looking in, just blew up, right? Mm-hmm. And that also comes with pressure and expectations. And, and of course, when you write the book, it's over. It belongs to the reader. It's not even yours anymore, right? You've written it and you're accountable for what you wrote, but it belongs to the reader. It's their interpretations, it's their impressions, it's how they view the book, but it's also how they view where you're going or where they would like you to go or where they think you're going, right? With the series, when you're writing a long series. And I think so much of that is, I'm just saying hypothetically, for example, I expect, Michael to resolve, for example, Baradane's arc by book 4. And we kind of get, you know what I mean? But meanwhile, you're like, hell no, I didn't getting resolved till the end. Or maybe it's getting resolved, or maybe I'm killing him off in book 2. Or do you know what I mean? Like you
reader
have
expectations start to build, That's a good point. That's a really good point. Also, low-key also wonder, I'm like, do people think that's the end of the series? Because I've heard Rob Hayes told me, he's like, make sure, he's like, didn't matter what I did, people still thought it was just a trilogy. And they got mad at me for ending the book that way. He'd be like, it's not a trilogy. And so I'm like, I think I have a page that's, or like big bold letters on one of the pages that says, this book is not the last book in the series. And I think people don't see that or read that. So like, it could be also that. I wonder if that's like a common thing. But I think you're right. Like that first book, after people read that and it becomes the readers, series expectations become such a huge part of the equation, right? Readers might be like, these characters need to meet in book 2 and do this thing already. Like, it's like, well, it's 5 books, I gotta like, they live far away. They gotta slowly come together. Although it's not always the distance that creates the slowness of coming together. It's more like they have things to do in their own world, and all the things are interacting, right? Everybody's like, oh, these are the threats, and people are crossing paths and stuff. But yeah, I'm a pretty ambitious guy with what I'm trying to do. So we'll see if I can execute it.
Well, it certainly works for me. I want to quickly put up, we're graced by the presence of another brilliant author, the awesome Tim Wolf, who we all know and love. Tim, thanks so much, brother, for coming out and checking these out. Actually, I just finished Tim's main trilogy, Legacy of Bulldog. Absolutely fabulous. Still have to put up my review. I'm going to do a dedicated kind of video review, series overview when I have time, but definitely like awesome stuff. Really fun. The way I can describe Tim's series best is just fun, awesome, fast paced like that. If and I'm more and just way more credit to him because I'm more of a slower pace. I generally like the slower pace build up books, but Tim's stuff is a blast. It's fast and amazing, and he's
nice.
Actually he's building a really, really big reputation as specifically writing novellas. His novellas are stunning. So
ZB Steele's always talking about Tim Wolf.
Yeah. Read his stuff, man. Awesome stuff. So yeah, thanks, Tim.
I gotta say, I gotta appreciate you. You're able to like read people's work and like put up reviews and like do all that. Man, I'm gonna give you a quick example. I read like not that many books a year, maybe 6 to 8, And for an example, I'm reading Best Served Cold and I'm like, this is amazing. I love it. It took me a week to get through this one chapter and it was in the middle of a very climactic murder, like setup. And I'm like, wow, that's why I don't end up reading very much. Like there's so many, I probably buy at least 10 books for every one that I get read. It's pretty sad, but
so good. I don't have young kids anymore, and I'm a grandfather, empty nester, getting close to retirement from my regular daytime gig.
How old are you?
So 57. So
what? No.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. You look good for 57. I thought you were in your I would have guessed probably 45.
Bro, look at all this gray, man. No way.
I got some gray. I'm 40. I guess I got some gray. Everybody got some gray.
Just means
we're a handful.
Oh, no. My kids getting close to 40. I had them young. So yeah. So but seriously though.
I'll be actually almost the same for me. When I'm your age. Bro, if I could look like you at your age, actually, we get my beard a little longer. It would be almost funny.
Oh, bro, seriously, man. Hats off to especially all the writers that are working full time, young families, spouses, etc. Doing all to you. So kudos, and still managing to put out this kind of quality stuff. So hey, man, kudos. Right? It's a big deal.
It's a lot. I think I'm gonna go slightly slower on book 4. Book 3 was I was pretty much for 10 months, and it was crazy. Well, you know the story about book 3, right?
No.
Oh, dude, when I finished book 3's first draft, I started my launch thing. Like I set book 1's, right, and launch book 2 and put book 3 up for pre-order. I thought within a year of you can have your book up for pre-order for a year. So I was like, okay, great. You can move the pre-order date. I go in December 20th and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be done with book 3 till May. Okay. And I'm like, I got to postpone the launch. So I go in to change the launch on Amazon and did not realize you get one time, 30 days only postponement. And I was like, I had originally back in July set the date for January 13th, thinking I could be done by then. No. So I was like, oh, I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to take this off and lose 350 pre-orders and piss off a bunch of readers? Probably not. But that means I'm going to have to rewrite, edit, proof, format book 3
yeah.
by February 8th. So it was like 6 weeks. So I pretty much had to do it in a month. I had to have it like rewritten in a month so that I could proof it in like a week. So I could format it in like 2 days. And shout out to the cult Discord. I had about 4 or 5 people who were like, yeah, we'll proofread it. And they did it in a week, you know? Oh my God. It was amazing. But I had to rewrite it in a month. And that was honestly, my thumbs have not recovered. But like, dude, that was brutal. I cannot believe I did this crazy thing I ever did. The book is 240,000 words. And I had to rewrite it in a month. Anyways, that's the story there.
I didn't realize that. Wow, bro. Well, cool. You know, hats off to you for even just the attempt. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could do that. Like, wow, that's amazing. But great to hear too. You had the support of your peeps to make it happen. Like, yeah, that's right. Oh, and I quickly so funny. Tim just asked if I missed it. I got your replay, but did you talk about the relaunching? We did, Tim. We did talk about the relaunching, so definitely catch the replay. That's closer to just after the kind of midway part of the broadcast. So yeah, definitely talk the relaunching, and I was fascinating, and I learned a lot just from what Michael did, and so that I'm gonna rewatch that part just to kind of pick up tips, because that's the thing, like the connection, the learning from each other, the camaraderie, the mentorship, the support, the commiseration, the celebrating the victories. That's such an amazing thing about this community that I absolutely adore. But I have to quickly talk, Michael, and again, just praise you for this. Like my friends who know me, you can describe it how you want, but I probably would describe me as somewhat of a prose snob. So, and if a book like this is going to be, I'm going to go, yep, this is in consideration right now. Currently, I know it's early. I'm shot calling back. This is in consideration for my top books of the year so far, which it is. If it didn't have the prose, it would not be. If it did not have that specific element, it would be very hard for me. Yes, characters first for me, always. I think characters first, last one. But it's almost a 1N and 1A, because the vehicle I need to get there to love your characters is how you write. And the prose is fabulous. So that was definitely an aspect that had me going about this book. But beyond that, I have to say some awesome action scenes. But I think it was the themes that really put it into that, book of the year category, and especially how you dealt with mental health and Baraday. And this is quickly, I want to talk about this, as we're winding down, because your main character, again, one of the things that initially drew me to the series was that we talked about, oh yeah, I heard about your main character, PL, and might be some similarities there based on what I've heard between Baraday and Authorin. And yeah, but Baraday is so well done. And you definitely explore the depths and breadths of what it's like to deal with a mental health crisis, essentially. And spiraling and not be able to get out of certain behaviors, the thought process, etc. Yes, it was such incredible. What went into that, if I can ask? What went into how well done Baradane's character was, about how tormented he was, and the fact that he went from essentially ruler to drug dealer?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the things that, so like if he's growing up as a prince, and he's growing up with his brother as a prince and his father as the crown prince, everything that in one fell swoop, everything that linked him to being a royal person was taken in one single event, right? And so like he didn't really know, like you got to imagine, all of a sudden your whole like life feels like it's taken from you, like a few of the like most important people in your life die, and you're sitting there. It's hard enough just sitting there by yourself, right? But then imagine you're surrounded by an army in the middle of like a war, and the pressure, all of a sudden you're like, and now you're in charge. Make decisions. I'd be like, fuck off. I'm out of here, right? Hell no. I got enough for like some retribution maybe because I'm pissed. But then after that, and then it's a spiral from there, right? Like that pressure cooker just like kicked him out of the whole equation. He's like out, right? And then because of what he did in his grief, because he couldn't manage it on the spot with all the pressure, then he's just like, I'm just gonna disappear. Like nothing really matters. Like, and I deserve like suffering, right? Honestly, the whole theme of the price of power stems from my own. I didn't know this till after I hit publish on the relaunch, but I realized it like the night I did like relaunched book one. Is it all the whole theme of this series is like my own struggles with OCD, right? And my OCD, yeah, okay, like there's like little weird idiosyncrasy type like things, but that part's gotten way better. Really, it's just like this intrusive thoughts around balance. Like I used to do a lot of balance things when I was a little kid. Like I'd like, chew the inside of my cheek and then I dick. Have to make it exactly the same feeling on both sides, right? So I've always had an obsession with balance. And then it became, as an adult, it's more balance thinking, right? It's more in my thoughts, not my physical. Like I've been able to overcome that. I can step on cracks and stuff like that now. But the thinking part has been really challenging in that it's like, it'll become, it's like almost like a spiritual balance of like something bad happened. Now something good will happen. Something good is happening. Oh, now something bad has to happen. And it's like this constant like balancing of the scales. And so the price of power, right? It's like the suffering, even the magic system, you're suffering. The worst suffering can manifest as the greatest power, right? And by the way, even though that's the magic system, it's also the like psychological system and character development medium as well. But like that is just prevalent throughout the whole thing, right? It's like if there's going to be some sacrifice, there may be a reward. If there's going to be, but also don't like full. I'm aware of it now, so I can like break that cycle if I want to. Just be aware. Get too much expectation.
Well, I have to say that again, it was so incredibly well done. And what hit me hard was, well, a few things, and I want to quickly, as we're finishing off, just about Baradane. Like he has, well, actually has technically two, but one person in his life that is no matter what he does, as horrible as he is, irrespective of what as he refused to drag himself out of the quagmire, she will stick by him and drag him out. And I think that's the one thing that he really has going for him, no matter what, that she's not giving up, no matter what he does, right? And she's also determined to not hold him accountable for his actions, the action that started this spiral, but is going to hold him accountable for what his responsibilities should be that he's abdicated. And I think that's really important to have someone like that. And I think she's just the fabulous. She, you talk about side characters, importance of side characters. She is such an amazing side character, indomitable, just loyal to a fault, not going to give up. Is not going to let him go into the gutter any more than he already has, and is determined to drag him back out because she feels that the world needs him back.
Mm-hmm. And she's, I'll say Garlena and the Madness are two of the side characters there I used to love.
The Madness.
Well, the Madness is like, he's
mostly the Madness.
Yeah, Madness is fun. But like, as far as Garlena and Barodane, Garlena serves as a foil to Barodane. Like his resigned, despairing thinking and like that weakness is her greatest strength. Like she can mentally like put herself in the mode to do anything, right? Because she's this incredibly highly trained spy and guardian character. Although that said, Barodane is also just super likable. just because someone's bad or has done bad things doesn't mean they're not likable. In fact, sometimes really shitty people are likable on a massive scale, which is weird. But Barodane's more like what I've found in my experiences of life is that people will like someone who's an asshole if they're authentically being themselves, because it comes down to trust. Like, yeah, they might be like, it's so weird. You've had these like friend groups mingle and stuff. And it's like, oh, I don't know how this person's they're like super this way. And this person's like this. And I don't know if they're going to get along. And they meet and that person immediately does the thing that you're like, oh shit. And the other person's like, oh, that's so great. And they like them because they're just like, that's what's authentic. People don't like inauthenticity more than they dislike people who are being assholes. It's a weird thing, but you see it constantly. And so, like, even though Barodane's not an asshole, he's just really likable, even if he's morose and terrible in this like situation he's got himself in. He's still kind of funny.
and you can
kind of funny is good.
And you can see he's got those heroic aspects that made him a prince, that made him who he was. They're still there. They're latent and they're buried, or his addictions and his mental state. But quickly, I know keep saying we're gonna finish off. I know whatever, but you brought it up. It's your fault. I blame you. I gotta talk quickly about the madness, okay? Because in my mind, that was so. You want to talk about maybe second favorite characters? Yeah. So I had this kind of combination: Darth Maul, Pennywise the Clown, like this thing that just, but also, of course, initially, is it simply a manifestation of people's imagination? It was so much wrapped up into that character, snarky, evil, unpredictable, but also like serving a purpose to drive someone towards ascension potentially. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying not to give away too much here. I'm just saying, like, what went into that? I have to know what went into that character.
Yeah. I love that you're seeing also that it's hard to talk about this book, and it only gets harder as the series goes, because everything, like, I found it difficult to talk about the book because I'm like, everything I say feels like a spoiler.
Yeah.
So it's hard to talk about, which is, I think, a good thing ultimately, but it's not easy for marketing. Anyways, the madness, speaking of authentic assholes, or like just authentic people who you're like, oh my God, I can't bring this person around this person. There's a friend of mine who the madness is like influenced by. Actually, it's two characters that person influenced. One is the Black Hand marionette, Waro Hurd. He's the guy who's like in the tent when Barodane's having his fever dream, and he's got black hands, and he like pulls out this like swirling ball of dark energy. That guy, and then the madness. And then the madness is also, it's like a combination of that friend's complete unpredictability of like what he's going to say. Literally, there's no filter. He'll say whatever, anytime, anywhere. Doesn't matter who he's around. And people still think they laugh and think he's great. It's so weird. But then like, it's also this actor. Did you ever see the movie Ghost?
Yeah.
Do you remember the subway ghost? That guy with the crazy.
Oh yeah.
His eyes, right? Terrifying. You
still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And that guy was an influence as well. And then I think because of that, when I was like 21, I had this like idea for a short story of this like haunting ghoulish character with a sickle standing at the edge of these people's farm in the snow, and this kid being like, oh God. And I wanted to write it, but then I just took that character and put it in as the madness. With the personality of my friend. As scary as that sounds. My friend's not evil, just mind you, but the like comedic, unpredictable, crazy, saying wild shit. Oh man, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but book 1 and 2, and hopefully the rest of the series, depending on how those do, they're getting a full cast dramatized audiobook with Kokoro Audio. Got to shout out Kokoro. Really enjoying working with them. I've been very involved in the process, and they've been fantastic. And there were 1,800 auditions for the audiobook.
Wow.
They did great work getting people in, and the voice actors for many of the roles, there's 36 voice actors, and the actors for many of the roles are fantastic. And the guy who does the madness is, in my creative vision, perfect.
Wow. Okay. Well, congratulations. That's really encouraging. So, folks, check that out when that's released. Oh, quickly, I don't want to be remiss before we go. Like, you did mention Kickstarter, so I want to make sure we boost that. What's going on? When's it going to start? What goals? Like, what are we talking?
Oh yeah. So no specific date quite yet. I am waiting. Jeff Brown should have the final cover to me within a week or so. So once that's done, then we'll probably be rolling, because the cover we'll be able to put it up and stuff, and it looks really cool. You get a cool little shot of Lodeka and the Gate of the Tiger, and it's very cool cover. And then there's 2 full art spreads from Anderson McElhays, a full black and white from Andrea Tarzia, and a couple single pages as well. So there's 6, so 3 full spreads and 2 single pagers to start with a cool cover. And there should be add-ons with book ribbon. There's gonna be some fancy little bookmarks. There's gonna be a slip case that is gonna be cool. I've got an awesome design in mind. So yeah, it's gonna be really fantastic. I'm excited for it. It should happen. And we'll actually be shipping international for this Kickstarter, because I have not done that before. And so I'll actually be able to get this to people in other countries, which is great. My bet is around the first week of May. That's my bet. Somewhere around there. And it's just a deluxe edition Kickstarter.
Wow.
For book 1.
Well, congratulations. We're excited for that. Looking forward to be able to boost that when it comes out. Listen, I could keep you here all day talking. You've been so generous with your time. You got up early for this. I can't thank you enough. This is just such an honor, privilege for me to get to speak to an author who, is clearly going to become one of my faves. Absolutely love Bryce Power. Again, this is one of those books, I know it's early, but has that potential book of the year vibe. So we'll see, of course, but I can't see it not making the top book list, irrespective of where it falls, because it's just that good. Read this series. This is Grimdark fans. Great artwork, by the way. Just saying again on the book. So Dreams, Dust, and Steel. Read the series. I believe 3 books out now. 4th one coming at some point. Give me 5-book series. I believe is there a novella as well too?
There's a novella. So there's going to be 5 books in the main series, Dreams of Dust and Steel. I have it all outlined. I know exactly how it ends. Okay, so you know, and it's not going to be I don't know, for 10 years. And then there's 4 novellas that are going to be coming. 2 are currently out, and that's a prequel series that revolves around Daneth Ironlight. And he's in the prologue of book 1, and he's kind of cool. He's more of a heroic Conan the Barbarian-ish character, but very heroic, badass dude. So, yep, enjoy that, and only recommend bad books to PL Stewart for the rest of the year, so they get press product out there. Don't recommend your best ones.
Well, I will be definitely finishing this series, because I need to be able to, probably and potentially put this in my top indie science fiction fantasies of all time, because based on this book, I'm sure it will be figuring in that discussion. So quickly, my friend, thank you. Can you tell us where to buy your books, where to find you on social media, and that sort of jazz?
You can find me on Instagram at Michel Author. as it's spelled here, which, by the way, never talked about my title of King Dingus. Isn't that funny? I thought that was funny.
You have to come back to tell us about that one.
Yeah. No, I call my kids a dingus all the time. It's classic That 70s Show thing, I guess. Just what you call your kids. But Price Power, you can find if you want an ebook, find it on Amazon. All my books are on there in ebook. And if you're not ready to like invest the whole $5, you can always grab War Song and Death Dance for, I think they're both $1. Try those out. Or Kindle Unlimited. They're all on Kindle Unlimited as well. So you can read for free if you've got that. And then if you want if you want a physical book and you live in the US, I can ship that to you. You just have to reach out to me on socials. And book 3's physical books should be out in the next 4 to 6 weeks as well. And hoping probably more like 6 to 8 actually. And just shoot me a message. My social media, Instagram is Michael Michel Author. Michael Michel as it's spelled here. On TikTok and Twitter /X, it is Michael Book Cult. Cult as in like, we worship that cult. Not like a pew pew. So yeah, there you have it. Michael Michel Author is also my website. You can find everything on there too.
Fantastic. And those links will all already all in this video. And so follow Michael and check out his amazing writing. Again, one of my favorites so far this year. Definitely going to figure in the top book of your discussion. Quickly on PL Stewart, John Keefe Sagas channel. John Keefe Sagas is a series. 5 books out now. 6th book entitled The Black Dragon Unread coming very soon. And then the 7th book and final book in the series will be out at some point in 2027. This channel will do 6-month interviews with wonderful creatives such as Michael. We have the honor of doing that. And also with my great colleague and partner, Taylor from Pages. Check out our channel, and also the booktuber. And we do the page chewing interviewing feature. I'm also an assistant editor for Before We Go Blog. Shout out to the Before We Go Blog crew. And a contributing member now of the incredible Grimdark magazine. All the socials are at PL Stewart Writes. Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, all that jazz. It's all the same at PL Stewart Writes. That's where you can find me. So, again, this has been so wonderful speaking with the awesome author, Mike Michel. Him and I are going to sign off, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Peace.
Bye now.